Every time I walk through the gates at Muncy, I feel like I'm coming home. And that's a response from the staff, from the inmates, from the welcome at the front door. And that hasn't changed even today. It's still coming back home. I remember my first time, my first day almost at Muncy, almost 10 years ago, when I was deputy superintendent, came in through the gate, and I hear talking. Now, you have to understand that prior to working at Muncy, I had worked in male facilities. So when I come into the compound and I hear, "I love you," like, did I just hear that? And I did. And of course, from my perspective, it's like, you know what, there's no place for that in jail. But what it made me do was pause and recognize that I'm not in a male facility. I'm in a female facility. And it's incumbent upon me to recognize that there is a difference. And for all those that came after me, my one charge to every superintendent, including Superintendent Smith, was when I walk into Muncy, I don't want it to feel like a Cole Township. I don't want it to feel like a Smithfield. I want it to feel like Muncy. It made me understand that you have to pause and recognize the organization that's here. But what it also did for me that day was brought home the point that those that are confined, the women that are here, are just like me. That they care, that they matter, that as we've heard, that they are somebody's mother, somebody's sister, somebody's niece, somebody's cousin, somebody's friend. That what's important to women on the outside are important to women on the inside. There's really no difference. And we heard earlier as well that we don't have to be behind the walls to be in prison in our own mind. So we share a lot of similarities. And I respect that. The other thing that Muncy taught me when I was here, through the help of a very, very dear friend of mine, was that people make mistakes. Those mistakes do not and should not determine who we are. So during that same year, I can recall a vote sheet coming across my desk for a certain individual to be Santa Claus for the visiting room for the children. Tradition here at Muncy. And I can remember looking at that vote sheet and saying, you know what, I don't think so. I don't think I can get there from here. Find somebody else. And this friend of mine said, Shirley, you have to remember what happened and why this individual was here. And the individual had mental health problems that weren't diagnosed in the community. And once she was here and was diagnosed, then she became a different person. That's what a lot of people do. People make mistakes, but we should not continue to penalize them for the mistakes that they made. We have to recognize that those individuals have the capacity to change. And it was that same individual who, unfortunately, when she was killed in a head-on car crash by a drunk driver, that her parents said that the individual responsible for her death should not go to prison because their daughter would not have wanted that individual, one more individual, to be confined. That treatment was the better option. They respected her position, and therefore we had to respect her position. And it also just brought home again that people make mistakes. And that's okay. That's okay. F. Scott Fitzgerald said that consider not one defeat is the final defeat. Right? So what does that mean? It means that we can be defeated on occasion. It means that we're here, some of us, on the inside, some of us on the outside, but nonetheless, we still have similar issues that need to be addressed. But just because you get defeated one time, or just because you make a mistake, just because you make a choice that's not the choice that you would have liked to have made, doesn't mean that you give up, doesn't mean that you lose hope, right? It means that you still have opportunity to do the right thing, regardless of where you are, regardless of what clothes you wear, regardless of if you go home at night or if this is your home. God said to bloom where you're planted, and we have to recognize that we can either be bitter for the choices that we've made, or we can be better. On the reverse side of that, let me also say, though, that one victory does not make us victorious. Some people get tripped up in that, right? You know what I'm talking about? Some people get tripped up in that. They think that, oh, I got it this time, or I made it one day without that drink, or I made it one day without that crack cocaine, or I made it one day, I'm good, or I can do just a little bit, and I'll leave it alone. But don't get tripped up in that, because one day of victory does not make you victorious. You still have to fight that every day. You have to fight it every day. We all do. We all do. I saw a demonstration one time, and it had to do with $1. Some of you may have seen the same demonstration, but what it showed was $1, and you can crumble the dollar up, you can put it through water, you can run over it with a car, you can do whatever you want to do with $1, save shredding it, and even then you can piece it back together, right? You can tape it back together. But when you unfold that dollar, has the value changed? No, it hasn't. So it matters not what we go through. It matters not the challenges that we face. It matters not the position where we're at. What matters is that when we get to the other side, right, and they say when you're going through something, what? You don't stop, right? You keep going through it. When you get to the other side, when you uncrumple that dollar bill, when you put your pieces back together, or you pick up the glass that has fallen, your value has not changed. It hasn't changed. Sometimes we forget that. We want to let other people define who we are by what they say, by what they do, by the labels they want to put upon us. But what you have to recognize is that you have value. People only want to invest, right, in something or someone that's going to give them a return on their investment. In order to recognize that you're valuable, that you're worth investing, you have to understand that you have value where you are. And once you have the value, then you have to have the vision. You have to be able to see where you're going. You have to be able to see beyond your present circumstances. We all do. If you can envision it, then you can achieve it. But you first have to see it. The vision is going to determine where you're going. My son's a truck driver, and we all have GPS, and we heard a song about GPS earlier, and we know that GPS doesn't always take you where you want to be, right? We heard earlier this week that someone followed GPS and ended up in a park in New York, right? The thing about GPS is it's good to use, but in order to use it properly, you have to understand and know where you're going. It's a tool. If you leave everything up to the GPS to get you where you need to be, you may find yourself in that park somewhere, or you may find yourself in that dead end. So you have to have an idea of where you're going. If you do all of that, and if society recognizes that what you are, who you are, gives you value, then the world is going to be a better place. If we recognize that people make mistakes, but people need to be forgiven, then the world will be a better place. If society can envision a world where people get treatment for what they need and not get locked up, then the world's going to be a better place. But we have a responsibility as society to help you recognize that you have value, that we need to invest in you, right? And that you are going home one day. And if we truly want to recognize the connection or the tapestry that we have, that every decision that you make or every decision that you make impacts everything that we do. There's no getting around it. There's a cause and effect. So I just want to remind you that remember, when you make choices and when you make decisions, when you go through your daily activities, consider not that one defeat is the final defeat. And think not that one victory makes you victorious. But you have to keep on keeping on. Thank you.